Aerdrie Faenya is the elven goddess of the air, weather, and the winged elves. Aerdrie and her clergy encourage exploration and treks out into the wider world. They look to foster a strong relationship between avian creatures. I am Ben Dignan, and welcome once again to Religion in the Realms. Titles. Aerdrie goes by the following titles: the Winged Mother, Lady of Air and Wind, Queen of the Avariel, She of the Azure Plumage, and Bringer of Rains and Storms. Aerdrie has one alias, Angharad, though the name Angharad has far more to it than a simple second identity. We will get around to explaining that later. Portfolios. Aerdrie has a few portfolios she presides over: air, weather, avians, rain, fertility, and the Avariel, who are also known as the Winged Elves. Aerdrie's suggested domains across Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes are life, tempest, and trickery. Appearance and manifestations. Aerdrie appears as a tall and thin female elf. Her skin is sky blue. Her hair and eyebrows are both feathered and white. Bird wings come off her back. Her feathers continuously shift through different shades of colors. From her waist down, there's nothing save a swirling mist. In this way, she is never touching the ground. Aarakocra followers have seen her appear before them as a lustrous, large white bird. Should an Aarakocra manage to collect any of this bird's feathers, they are held onto as treasured items. Aerdrie wields a quarterstaff she calls Thunderbolt. When it is in the hands of her avatar, it is a +3 weapon that hits with additional lightning damage. Aerdrie rarely sends a manifestation down to the surface. When she does, it often takes the form of a strong wind, rain, and/or powerful storms. A person can witness her manifestations protecting the outskirts of Evermeet. Aerdrie creates storms, cyclones, and gales to keep any non-elven ship from reaching the elven retreat. Aerdrie may rescue an elf falling from a great distance. A blue flash of light surrounds the falling individual. While the light surrounds them, they land safely on the ground as if the Featherfall spell had been cast on them. The same blue nimbus manifested by Aerdrie may also protect a flying creature and/or elf from missiles or thrown weapons from the ground. The nimbus creates an effect akin to the spell Protection from Normal Missiles, seen in 2nd edition. Like her manifestations, omens given by Aerdrie are just as rare. Though if she has need of passing something on to her followers, she does so through a spell from 2nd edition called Whispering Winds. As per the spell description, quote, "The wind is gentle and unnoticed as a zephyr until it reaches the location. It then delivers its whisper-quiet message or other sound." Like all elven gods, Aerdrie has the services of Agathanon, Asuras, and ancient treants. Other creatures in her service are Aarakocra, Aasimar, Aasimon, air elementals, aerial servants, androsphinxes, Asperi, Adamies, Avarels, Asmis, birds of all non-evil species, in particular eagles, falcons, hawks, kingfishers, and owls, cloud dragons, cloud giants, crystal dragons, Jinn, Eldrin, in particular the Brolani Eldrin, fairy dragons, firetails, fremlins, frosts, griffins, gors, hippogriffs, holophants, kenku, Koliathra, Kirin, Lamasu, Lalendi, noctrals, Ophiuchus, Pegasi, Pegatars, Phoenixes, Pixies, Reverend Ones, Rocks, Sealy Fairies, Shadoo, Silver Dragons, Sylphs, Spirits of the Air, Sprites, Storm Giants, Sunflies, Swan Mays, Swarms of Grasshoppers or Locusts, Sword Archons, Talking Owls, Tempests, Tressums, Tuindrin, Vortexes, Wind Ghosts, and Windwalkers. That was a very long list. Some animals and objects will appear to demonstrate her favor. Feathers of any sort, hornbill ivory carved in the form of an avian creature, cedros, raindrops, which are a common name for cassiterite crystals, sapphires, turquoise, weirwood bird pipes, and wind instruments of any sort. Aerdrie may show her displeasure through the following phenomena: transforming a gentle zephyr or little rain shower into a lashing storm, by causing flocks of birds to suddenly dissolve, each bird going its own separate way, and by causing the offender's plumage, whether it is natural or a form of adornment, to suddenly molt. Powers and abilities. Aerdrie is listed as an intermediate god in 2nd edition and 3rd edition. We can infer some of her abilities from 3rd edition even though they are not attributed to her directly. 3rd edition sources attribute the following abilities to all intermediate powers. Aerdrie immediately receives a die result of 20 on any checks she makes. If she rolls a 1 on an attack roll or saving throw, these are not seen as automatic failures. Rather, they are treated as normal rolls. Aerdrie's divine senses extend out to a distance of 11 to 15 miles. Her divine sense extends out from her worshippers, holy sites, object, or a location where her name or one of her many titles was spoken in the last hour. Aerdrie's divine senses can be divided in 10 different locations at once. She is able to block the senses of other deities of her power level or lower at 2 different locations for a maximum of 11 to 15 miles. Since the rank of intermediate god does not exist in 5th edition, I can easily assume that she falls under the category of a lesser deity. Aerdrie's avatar prefers to cast those wizard and priest/cleric spells that feature the elements of air, flight, electricity, and/or gas. Her avatar may use any divine or arcane magic that doesn't use fire or elemental earth. The avatar can cast several spells at will. Some of these spells exist in the 2nd edition of the game and have not been brought forward into 5th edition. These spells include Call Aerial Beings, Control Winds, Control Weather, Flight of Remnants, or Wind Walk. When casting Call Aerial Beings, the avatar summons 4 times the regular amount of creatures. Aerdrie may manipulate the spells Lightning Bolt and Wind Blast, unleashing either of the spells twice in a round. The avatar can nullify or disallow any creature within 120 feet of her to fly or levitate. The avatar may bring forward many air elementals to serve her once a day. No avian creature can or will attempt to harm her. Finally, she is immune to any ranged ammunition, any elemental air spells, and any magic weapon with a +1 bonus or less to hit. Personal history. There's not a lot to discuss about Aerdrie from a historical perspective. Way back in the mythical past, approximately in -30,000 Dale Reckoning, the war between the Seldarine and anti-Seldarine took place when Lolth tried to usurp the leadership of the Seldarine from Corellon. This has been a story covered in greater detail in the Corellon and Senine Moonbow episodes. Aerdrie was the first to engage the anti-Seldarine as they marched on Arvindor. She blasted them with gale force winds that left them looking for handholds as they began to be swept away. One of the many evil gods Lolth wrangled into invading Arvindor was Auriel. Auriel flew in to do battle with Aerdrie unfazed by such winds. The two powers lashed out at one another as they flew up into the sky and out of the sight of those present. A terrible storm formed up above as a result. How their battle specifically ended is not said. We do know Aerdrie emerged the victor, as she appears later. From this moment on, Aerdrie and Auril have been eternal foes. Aerdrie arrives on the scene later to see Seldarine forces victorious over the anti-Seldarine, but too late to see Corellon shot down. From her perspective, she saw Corellon's daughter, Illustrae, shoot an arrow into Corellon's chest, mortally wounding the patron god of the elves and rendering him unconscious. In actuality, through the trickery of Lolth, Corellon could not draw his sword to defend himself. His sheath was cursed by his then consort Arashni, who would later go on to become Lolth. With such evil intent felt on Arvindor, the elder god Gonador oozed up into Arvindor and grasped around Corellon's feet, rendering him immobile. An unnamed ogre god then charged towards the vulnerable Corellon, but his daughter Illustrae spotted the scene from a nearby tree. She loosed a few arrows from her longbow. All but one pieced the ogre. The last arrow was guided by the same curse upon the sheath against Illustrae's will, piercing Corellon. Again, Aerdrie did not see these specifics. Aerdrie just witnessed Illustrae shooting her father. She lashed out at Illustrae up in the tree with her powerful wind magics. Illustrae was heavily damaged and fell unconscious beneath broken trees surrounding her. Attending to Corellon with other members of the Seldarine, Arashni's deception was uncovered as Seaning Moonbow escaped from a trap laid by Arashni previously. Aerdrie coming together with Hanali Selenil and Seaning Moonbow. The three goddesses formed into Angharad. This newly formed goddess healed and roused Corellon. Angharad went on to be Corellon's consort, if moon elves are to be believed, and Arashni, who became Lolth, was banished to the abyss. Aerdrie is regarded broadly in three ways with varying nuances from elf to elf. She's either seen as a separate goddess, as one of the three goddesses who form Angharad, or an aspect of the goddess Angharad herself. Moon elves, also known as silver elves, are the sole subrace of elves on Faerun who hold belief in Angharad. Sun elves, also known as gold elves, either respect, tolerate, or see any belief in Angharad as heretical, but worship the associated goddesses with Angharad separately. The other subraces of elves are indifferent on the matter, if they are even aware of Angharad to begin with. A humorous myth held by the elves is that Aerdrie created the first pumpkins from the heads of slain orcs, the joke being that elves would use the head of the orc for much more than the orc ever did while still alive. During the 4th edition era of the Forgotten Realms, Auril, quote, defeated Aerdrie Faenya. Now, their battle was not described to my knowledge. Chalk that up to a storyline that likely was to be expanded upon later in 4th edition if the writers had the time to get to it. As it was, the writers of 4th edition pared down the number of gods in the realms. Some gods were said to have forever been just aspects of others, or in this specific case, Auril defeated Aerdrie Faenya. I don't know if this means Auril destroyed Aerdrie or Auril subsumed her. In any case, the Avariel, also known as the Winged Elves, declared Auril to be their new patron god. Without question, the Avariel have gone back to worshipping Aerdrie with her return to the Elven Pantheon. While I wish the wide-sweeping changes of 4th edition, followed by the retcons that came with 5th edition, did not exist, but hopefully I've explained that situation well enough. Like several dead or dormant gods re-emerging with the Second Sundering, Aerdrie Faenya is now an active goddess again. Alignment and personality. Aerdrie Faenya is a chaotic good goddess. As a goddess of the wind and air, her personality rides a similar line. She is breezy, carefree and unburdened. She loves to be on the move, so she finds it uncomfortable to remain in one space for too long. Aerdrie loves woodwind instruments and the music they make. She likes to twist and bend the weather to her amusement, which occasionally creates severe storms. But she is not doing this with destructive intent, unless the situation calls for it. This is more to revel in such conditions. Ultimately, she just loves to be airborne. She is one of the more disinterested elven powers in the daily affairs and happenings of the elves, save the winged elves. Aerdrie is held to be one of the more chaotic elven powers. Divine Realms. In the Great Wheel cosmological model used in 1st edition, 2nd edition, and is the default cosmological model for 5th edition, Aerdrie Faenya inhabits an unnamed domain that moves between the upper planes of Arborea and Ysgard. Arborea is the chaotic good outer plane, and Ysgard is the split chaotic good/chaotic neutral outer plane. On Arborea, Aerdrie's domain flies above the realm of Arvindor. On Ysgard, Aerdrie's domain flies above the realm of Elfheim. Since Aerdrie is a good degree more chaotic than her fellow elven powers, her realm often slips between Arvindor and Elfheim, reflecting her nature. Strong winds and storms often manifest around this domain. Aerdrie will temper such weather to allow flying creatures to maneuver and visit more easily. The domain is made up of many clouds, 2 massive floating trees, and hovering islands. I didn't see any further description that discusses these 2 floating trees. Likely they serve as a place for the many roosts and nests of avian practitioners. Serenita, the patron goddess of the Aarakocra, resides in this domain with Aerdrie. All sorts of flying creatures travel along with Aerdrie's domain. They take to surrounding trees regardless if they find themselves in Arvindor or Elfheim. I will refer you back to Coralon's and Cenine's episodes to get a description of Arvindor and Arborea. I will cover Ysgard and Elfheim instead in this episode, since it may come up only this one time while covering the Elven Pantheon. Ysgard is a sprawling plain made of sweeping, vastly unsettled landscapes for heroic adventure. The environments are at their extremes. The mountains are tall, the caverns deep, and storms are strong. Ysgard is made up of floating massive motes of earth that float slowly around one another in constant motion. These motes will occasionally collide, creating earthquakes. Some are smaller in size and are known as earthbergs, while the largest motes are as large as continents. Mortals and souls who reside on the lair of Ysgard can fight and adventure freely without much consideration for their well-being. For if they die, the next day they will rise alive and well to face another challenge. Ysgard is the primary home of the Norse gods, both the Aesir and Vanir, and here they often go about masquerading as mortals to be amongst their various petitioners. Elfheim is a realm on the upper plane of Ysgard, which is also known as Ysgard. Hopefully that's not too confusing. As the name Elfheim suggests, it is home to many elves. One theory holds that Elfheim was once a piece of Arvindor that slid into Ysgard because of the many elves who are so deeply concerned with honor and survival. 2 of the chief gods in Elfheim are the Vanir gods Frey and Freya from the Norse Pantheon. Both have no known worship on the realms, but receive a lot of veneration from elves on other worlds. Elfheim is suffused by bright light and sprawling wild spaces. The elves here are quite hedonistic, caring for little else but enjoying the nature all around them. Elfheim moves through the 4 seasons. Summer is reserved for great celebration, as the resident elves heap gifts upon visitors and partake in many festivals. Come winter, the land turns harsh and unforgiving. The elves retreat to caverns that they seal up from outsiders to wait out the winter. In the World Tree cosmological model used for 3rd edition Forgotten Realms, Aerdrie resides on the plane of Arvandor. To keep things simple, the plane of Arvandor is more or less the same as its description as a realm in the Great Wheel cosmology. The Seldarine watch over a portal to another plane called the House of Nature in this cosmology. Several powers from the Faerunian Pantheon reside in the House of Nature. Many Eldrin and angels live in Arvandor. Eldrin in this context refer to the outer planar celestials who are elf-like in appearance. The angels are the divine servitors of the Seldarine. Eldrin live on Arvandor and often cooperate and assist the gods of the Seldarine, though they are not their divine agents. Those souls or petitioners who come to Arvandor in the afterlife all have the exaggerated looks of an elf. Even those who weren't elves in their mortal lives. The magic of the plane causes these beings to take on exaggerated fey characteristics and personalities. The souls feast regularly and enjoy the majestic nature all around them. Aerdrie's divine realm on this version of Arvandor is called the Aerie. It is a palace made from cloud stuff, flying high above the forests and mountains of the plain. Celestial rocks and eagles live in this realm along with Aerdrie's petitioners. Aerdrie had no realm described in 4th edition, since she was absent for that edition until re-emerging in 5th edition. Allies and allegiances. Aerdrie Faenya is part of the Elven Pantheon known as the Seldarine. Seldarine is an Elven word that loosely translates into Fellowship of Brothers and Sisters of the Wood. As with all members of the Seldarine, Aerdrie's superior is Corellon Larethian. The Elven powers act independent of one another. Still, if something concerns or threatens them, they all will quickly join together to face it. Outside of the Seldarine, Aerdrie has strong ties to the other powers of air, fertility, travel, and all things flying. Aerdrie has several allies: Akkadi, the Rue, Shondakul, and Sheila Periol from the Faerunian Pantheon. Shondakul and Aerdrie were thought to be romantically entangled in the 2nd edition days. That may have been a tenuous relationship given both gods' unwillingness to settle down. Continuing with our other allies, there is Illustrae from the Drow Pantheon, Sororally from the Halfling Pantheon, Isis from the Mulhorandi Pantheon. Aerdrie is then allies with other gods outside of any recognized Faerunian pantheon. Ektiam, god of unicorns, Finella, god of swan-maze, Coriol, god of Kirin, Remnus, god of giant eagles, and Stillsong, a mysterious elemental air god. Serenita is the patron goddess of Aarakocra. Serenita and Aerdrie have a strong relationship. It is theorized by some that since both are the patrons of dwindling populations, they may merge together to shore up their power. Aerdrie is also allied with several avian animal lords, one of which is the Hawk Lord. Briefly, the animal lords are powerful divine entities who reside solely on the beastlands of the upper planes. The animal lords are the powerful and idealized anthropomorphic divine forms representative of major categories of animals. The animal lords, of course, may shape change into their respective animal forms. Enemies. Aerdrie has a good number of foes. All the gods of fury, which includes Talos, Auriel, Umberlee, and Malar, and the Drow Pantheon, excluding Illustrae. Aerdrie's two chief foes are Auriel and Talos. She abhors Talos for his use of wind and air to destroy and bring ruin. Her hatred towards Auriel stems from the mythic past when Auriel was part of the anti-Seldarine forces that invaded Arvandor. I went over this previously in the personal history section. Demi-human deities from 2nd edition mentions that, with her defeat, Auriel was kicked out of Arvandor, never to return again. Since their battle long ago, the two goddesses had been fighting across planes and worlds. Central Dogma from 3rd editions, Faiths and Pantheons. Quote, "The ever-changing reaches of the sky are the great gifts of the winged mother. Take flight into her wind-swept embrace and gambol amid the clouds. Honor those who dwell with Aerdrie and cherish the birds dancing on her tresses. Change is beautiful and chaos births new life. Ascend, soar, glide, dive, and ascend again, and relish in the freedom that the winged mother bequeaths." End quote. Presence in the realms. Aerdrie Faenya is the patron goddess of the winged elves, also known as the Avariels. She serves in a similar capacity to Deep Shastralis, in that both are heavily tied to a subrace of elven kind. The winged elf population has been reduced to such an extent that most think they are nothing but a myth. When elves first crossed over into Toril, the Avariels were some of the first to do so, though the Avariel were soon the target of the abundant dragon population that flew in the skies of Toril in those ancient days. In time, the Avariel population was decimated by those dragons. This happened before the period in the realm's timeline known as the First Flowering, when the elves flourished and established their ancient kingdoms. With a reeling population, it was long believed that what remained of the winged elves flew out west to Evermeet. In actuality, they live in hiding among remote places across Faerun. Their strongest bastion is the Eyrie of the Snow Eagles, which I will discuss later, though a few small bands reside among the heartlands of Faerun. The winged elves hold that their wings were given to them by Aerdrie Faenya because she saw a time in the future where they as a people would be so threatened. Their wings are what they attribute to their survival in the face of extinction. Aerdrie's hand is said to be felt in the everyday lives of the winged elves. They sooner attribute events to her rather than coincidence. Avariel divide their societies into two distinct groups. There are the warriors and the pacifist scholars and clerics. The last group are those who form much of the priestly caste of Avariel society. The colossal rocks, the creature, not the stones, are thought by Avariel to bear a direct influence from Aerdrie. Outside of the winged elves, Aerdrie finds a good degree of worship from those elves who have aerial mounts or those elves seeking release from tyranny. Generally speaking, she sees a good deal of worship from elven bards, druids, rangers, sorcerers, and travelers. However, few other elves outside the Avariel primarily worship her, and no drow/dark elves worship her either. Another lingering population Aerdrie is worshipped by is the Aarakocra, but even they have their own patron god whom they worship. Some non-evil sapient avians and birds worship her as well. Since Aerdrie receives worship outside of the elven people, some sources mention that the strength of devotion she receives from all elves is reduced by a degree or two. Elves believe that Aerdrie ushers the souls from Arvindor down to the material plane. Some Aergenasi also worship Aerdrie Faenya, typically those who have a relationship or ties to an elven community. Typically, Aerdrie's worshippers are chaotic good, chaotic neutral, or neutral good. Aerdrie has one known holy symbol, a cloud with the silhouette of a bird in the middle of the cloud. Hierarchy and structure of the clergy. Aerdrie's faith is small. There's also little organization among her temples and shrines, each practicing in their own way with no centralized authority or governing body. Novices who are in training are known as eaglets or the tethered. When someone is made into a full clergy member, they are referred to as either winged brother or winged sister. There are no standardized titles among the faithful. Rather, clergy adopt titles unique to themselves. Some of the known titles are Aquiline Hunter, Cloud Walker, Feathered Dancer, Rainbringer, Rising Thermal, Silent Screech, Skydiver, Soaring Spirit, and Wind Chaser. Second edition's Demi-Human Deities provides the given breakdown by ancestry for Airdrie's clergy. 40% are Moon Elves, 38% are Gold Elves, 10% are Aarakocra, 8% other Elven subraces, and Half-Elves. Then finally, only 4% of Airdrie clergy are actual Winged Elves. By gender, Airdrie's clergy is mostly female, with 59% making up their number. Roles and responsibilities. Two chief responsibilities of Airdrie's clergy are exploration in fostering beneficial relationships between other sapient avian creatures, such as the Aarakocra and giant eagles. Since so few of Airdrie's clergy are capable of flight themselves, much attention and time is given to learning and creating spells that will grant them flight, or creating magical items for the same reason. A select few seek out relics of the faith lost to time that will hopefully grant them the same ability. Several different aerial mounts may be raised by Airdrie's clergy around or among temple grounds. These mounts often then are used in aerial cavalry employed by the Elven realms. They also care for birds with colorful and beautiful plumage, some of which may come from far away. Feathers from such birds find their way into Elven fashion and other pieces of art. Since Aerdrie is known to control the rain and weather, her clergy has a strong relationship with elves who tend to crops and plants, asking their goddess for weather that best serves the community. Finally, Airdrie's clergy is tasked with killing evil avian creatures. Orders and priestly bodies. The Wing of Plumed Kingfishers is an Elven military order of paladins and rangers who ride aerial mounts. Most in this order are Sun and Moon Elves. The Wing divides their order into different divisions based on the type of mounts used: Asperi, giant eagles, griffins, hippogriffs, and Pegasi riders. When the elves were at their most numerous on Faerun, the Wing patrolled above Elven realms. Presently, the Wing of Plumed Kingfishers operate only out of Everesca and Evermeet. The Wing of the Green Isle is a branch of the Kingfishers that resides on Evermeet. This branch includes Moon Elves on giant eagles, Gold Elves mounted on Pegasi, and a choice group of Moon and Sun Elves who ride on gold, silver, and bronze dragons. In Everesca is the branch of the Wing of the Everescan Eyrie. This branch includes Moon Elves on giant eagles and Moon Elves on Asperi. Appearance and dress. Ceremonial dress for Airdrie's clergy is a sky blue robe, though the highest ranks wear robes that are a darker shade of blue. Feathers feature prominently in their outfits, with one sole prescribed placement, at least a single feather worn in the hair. Their holy symbols are a single beautiful feather. This feather must have been shed and given by a sapient avian creature who also worships Aerdrie. Each year, a clergy member must find a new feather to serve as their holy symbol. While adventuring, Airdrie's clergy have a preference for light and flexible armor that will not hinder movement. They wear helmets shaped to look like the heads of birds and other avian creatures. Their weapons of choice are thrown weapons and bows. As has been mentioned before, if a clergy member is incapable of flight naturally, means will be sought to grant them flight. Often this takes the form of a trained aerial mount. Rituals. Meditation and prayer in Airdrie's name happens at dawn when the first breeze of the day passes before a rising sun. This is when the clergy prepare their spells for the day. Airdrie's name is often invoked when certain weather conditions are desired. The Dance of Swirling Winds happens twice a year. On the vernal or spring equinox and the autumnal or fall equinox. The winds always are strong where Airdrie's followers get together for the dance. Wonderful and colorful feathers are offered up in Airdrie's name. Those musicians who participate play their wind instruments while others fly and dance about on the wind. During these holy days, Aerdrie gifts those incapable of flight with the magical effects of a second edition spell known as Ride the Wind. Measures are put in place to ensure the safety of those who lack experience with flight. Tethers are tied to the inexperienced and held by the natural flyers or riders atop aerial mounts. At the conclusion of the festival, a great gust picks up, carrying all in the air and over some nearby forest, where all land softly in some glade or clearing. General characteristics of places of worship. A temple to Aerdrie is called an eyrie. You will find an eyrie typically high up in elevation on hilltops and mountain slopes. Shrines to Aerdrie might be a small location found on a small ledge along a cliff face accessible to only flying creatures. It is important that these places have an open view of the surrounding lands and sky up above. Temples are wondrous pieces of elven architecture made of crystal shaped into spires. Many glass chimes are found throughout these spires. Their musical notes ring out across any surrounding valleys and slopes for all to hear. Access into Airdrie's temples is made through caves along the cliff or slope that leads to where the spire stands. Passing into the caves, you reach the short tunnels that lead upwards into the temple. There are often many such caves made purposefully so the wind can pass through and make all sorts of whistling tones. Airdrie's holy places tend to have stables and other accommodations for raising aerial mounts and housing rare and beautiful birds. Known places of worship. Elven tales speak to many temples to Aerdrie that exist far to the west of Faerun. These eyries were founded by those Avariels fleeing from the destruction of the dragons thousands of years ago. Airdrie's faith is said to have a center of power in Faerun. The slopes of the Star Mounts, deep in the heart of the Hive Forest, are thought to have been the home of some great temple city dedicated to Aerdrie. Here, many Avariel lived before they fled or were killed by dragons. Two competing legends contend that different dragons within the Hive Forest claimed the ruins of the city. First is Inferno, an ancient red dragon. Second, and held to have greater credence, is Ella Crimilacros, an ancient green dragon. This green dragon is thought to hold the ruins since they have killed much of the resident Aarakocra population among the Star Mounts. Known by so few is the only recorded temple to Aerdrie built by and tended to by a remote Avariel population. So few, in fact, that even preeminent locations of elven power, such as Evermeet and Everesca, are unaware of its existence. Past the Great Glacier, north of the Cold Lands, and within the lands of Sawsel, is the eyrie of the Snow Eagles. Upon a mountain, known as Mount Sundabar, the resident of Avariel fish in ice-cold waters and brave the frigid and strong winds of this polar region to hunt. The Wing Elves built their temple into the shape of a cone to fit into the top of Mount Sundabar. An upper portion of this mountain was sheared off completely. Resident clergy hold that the Netheries sheared off the top of this mountain long ago when attempting to add to their number of flying cities. Rather, it is far more likely that a now defunct dwarven kingdom known as Dareth may have been responsible. The temple is huge in scale, 3,000 feet in diameter at the base and 3,000 feet high at its peak. The temple walls are made from a material called glass steel. Briefly, glass steel, as its name implies, is reinforced in magical glass as strong as steel. It is created by the wing elves and high elves. The interior of the temple rises up to its peak. As befits Aerdrie Faenya, there is a weather system unto itself within. Breezes and small rain showers manifest on their own. At the floor level is a natural space full of tropical and vibrant plants and trees. Flying among their boughs are rare and strange birds from all corners of the continent. As of its description in 2nd edition, the area of snow eagles was presided over by the powerful cleric of Aerdrie, winged Father Aquilin Greatspan. He had been in this position for almost 500 years, and it is possible that he may still hold this role presently. Corlon's Grove stands at the center of the northern half of Evermeet. The trees here entwine their branches, barring entry into the shrine. A treant occasionally will also stand guard over the area as well. A wrought iron gate allows entry only to those elves who have come here to worship the Seldarine. Within the grove are several marble walkways held up by tall columns. The different walkways lead to the different shrines in the grove. Ivy and roses wrap around the columns, never dying away. Several fountains are found in the grove. Each is enchanted to provide one of several different effects akin to many healing and enhancing potions. Originally, the Gold Elves built Corlon's Grove. Those powers of the Seldarine not venerated by them were not provided shrines. Still, all elves came to the grove to pray and venerate with other elven powers and their associated aspects. Evermeet was attacked by Ityak Orthiel, who is also known as the Elf Eater, in 1371 Dale Reckoning. The grove was unfortunately destroyed, but has since been rebuilt and reconsecrated. During its reconstruction, all powers and their associated aspects in the Seldarine were given shrines. A further point was made to include designs and elements important to all the elven subraces. There are also 2 shrines to archfey beings in the Seelie Court, Oberon and Titania. The Gold Elves originally had shrines built to them in the grove. Each shrine has a marble statue of its associated power. Those elves praying here are occasionally granted blessings or boons. Aerdrie's shrine features a statue carved into her typical likeness. Those who give worship here have a small chance of turning into a giant eagle for a few days before reverting to their former selves. Long ago, while the great elven city of Myth-Drannor stood in all its splendor, a temple to Aerdrie was found in the city's Caradhunnoth district. This temple was known as the Wind's Nest. This 2-story open-air temple rests upon intertwining branches of trees that stood 200 feet up into the air. Still keeping within the environs of the Cormanthor forest, the holy city of Sember was the home of several elven families dedicated to one member of the Seldarine. As a result, many in the Pantheon had temples, including Aerdrie Faenya. One other place dedicated to Aerdrie, mentioned in the sources, is a temple in the city of Ruath on Evermeet. Character options. The following is a custom background for 5th edition who is a worshipper of Aerdrie Faenya. For your 2 skill proficiencies, animal handling and survival. For your tool or language proficiencies, leatherworker's tools, navigator's tools, and or glass blower's tools. For your equipment and ribbon feature, there is the Far Traveler's Equipment and All Eyes on You feature that comes with the Far Traveler background in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Here's a list of subclasses that I think would be thematically appropriate for a NPC or PC to take if they are a worshipper of Aerdrie. For Cleric, there's the Life, Tempest, and Trickery domain, all from the 2014 Player's Handbook. For the Druid, there's the Circle of the Land from the Player's Handbook, and Circle of the Shepherd from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. For the Fighter, there's the Arcane Archer from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and Cavalier from Xanathar's Guide to Everything as well. For the Paladin, there's the Oath of Devotion and the Oath of Ancients from the Player's Handbook. For the Ranger, there's the Beastmaster and Hunter from the Player's Handbook, then the Fey Warden from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. For the Rogue, there's the Scout from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. For the Sorcerer, there's the Divine Soul from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and Storm Sorcerer, which is found in both Tasha's Cauldron to Everything and Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Dungeon Master Options. The following is a list of creatures available in 5th edition sources that are known servants of Aerdrie, or ones that are thematically appropriate. In the 2014 Monster Manual, there's the Aarakocra, Air Elemental, Androsphinx, Gynosphinx, Cloud Giant, Genie, Fairy Dragons, Griffin, Hippogriff, Kenku, Pegasus, Rock, Silver Dragons, Sprite, Storm Giant, Giant Eagle, and Giant Owl. Those that are different in the 2024 Monster Manual, there's the Aarakocra Aeromancer and Aarakocra Skirmisher. There's the Sphinxes of Wonder, Valor, Secrets, and Lore. And then there's the Fairy Dragon Adult and Youth. From Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, there's the Air Elemental Myrmidon and Phoenix, which are both found in Monsters of the Multiverse. From Bigby's Glory of the Giants, there's the Cloud Giant Destiny Gambler, Cloud Giant of Evil Air, though I would rework that one, and the Storm Giant Tempest Caller. From Volo's Guide to Monsters, there is the Cloud Giant Smiling One, Kirin, and Storm Quintessent. Again, these are all found in Monsters of the Multiverse as well. From Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, there are Crystal Dragons. From Rime of the Frost Maiden, there's the Young Griffin. Finally, in Descent into Avernus, there's the Holy Font and Tressum, though you can find the Tressum also in Storm King's Thunder. I will cover one associated monster with Aerdrie Faenya, who as of yet doesn't have an official 5th edition stat block. Aside from being unusually stunning, Asperi, also known as winged steeds, easily can be mistaken for a horse. However, they are intelligent beasts capable of running through the air, flying just as easily as any avian creature. They are intelligent beasts capable of telepathy. Asperi live in mountainous areas where it is cold. They live together in herds, though they are often seen flying by themselves or with one or two other members of the herd. Asperi can be raised from a young age to be mounts, or wild Asperi may bear someone on their backs for a short period of time. They typically do not permit chaotic and or evil creatures to ride them. Stat blocks and further information about Asperi can be found in 2nd edition's Monstrous Compendium Volume 3, Forgotten Realms Appendix, and 3rd edition's Monster Manual 2. Next up are some magic items that I feel the clergy and places of worship dedicated to Aerdrie have access to. From the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Arrow Catching Shield, Boots of Levitation, Boots of Speed, Boots of Striding and Springing, Broom of Flying, Carpet of Flying, Elemental Gem, the Blue Sapphire variant, Figurine of Wondrous Power, including the Bronze Griffin, Serpentine Owl, and Silver Raven, Horseshoes of a Zephyr, Horseshoes of Speed, Javelin of Lightning, Manual of Quickness of Action, Potion of Animal Friendship, Potion of Flying, Potion of Gaseous Form, Potion of Speed, Quall's Feather Tokens, Quiver of Alona, Ring of Genie Summoning, Ring of Air Elemental Command, Ring of Evasion, Ring of Feather Falling, Ring of Jumping, Staff of Thunder and Lightning, Wand of Lightning Bolts, Wind Fan, Winged Boots, and Wings of Flying. From Bigby's Glory of the Giants, the Elven Thrower, Mistral Mantle, Nimbus Coronet, Wayfarer's Boots, and Zephyr Armor. From the Book of Many Things, there's the Armor of Weightlessness and Winged Ammunition. From the Mythic Odysseys of Theros, the Flying Chariot. From Storm King's Thunder, though you'll have to rework this one, the Pennant of the Vind Rune. From Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, +1 to +3 Amulets of the Devout, and the Elemental Essence Shard, the AR variant. Finally, from Xathar's Guide to Everything, the Cloak of Billowing. Thank you for listening to this episode. Next episode will be another Dwarven Legacy episode. The episode will be about the fallen Dwarven Empire of Shanatar. Until next time, may Tymora look kindly upon your dice rolls, Helm protect you, and Lathander light your path.